Hey there, we need to do some repairs today. We're just doing some renovations. We've picked up an issue here with some tiles. So to explain the problem we have here, we've got some tiles that are coming out under a cupboard area. We've got a pool deck which is exposed to the sun and the rain. We've got a strip drain through here. So what we know is through here we've probably got some moisture sitting underneath these tiles. And what we've also likely to have is two different slabs. The house slab and the deck slab. So what's happened as a result of that is the tiles here, you can hear that they're quite hollow. So that suggests to us that there's been movement between the two slabs, and these tiles, which are adjoining the strip drain, have actually debonded and they've become loose. So if we were to try and inject using a standard repair adhesive like our Stickit Original, the difficulty is that there's going to be potentially moisture underneath there, and that's going to have that's going to create problems with our adhesive curing. But with our new Stickit Pro version, this is actually designed to bond difficult surfaces, so tile over tile. It's designed to be used as a gap filler, so we actually may have a situation where the tiler has had to spot fix these tiles and lift them up a little bit to get the right fall into the strip drain. And because that's happened, there's movement, there's water, that's more than likely what's caused the debonding of these tiles. There's also some telltale cracking through the grout joints here, which suggests to us that these tiles are actually quite loose. So we can repair those in place using the Stickit Pro with confidence that the adhesive is going to cure even if there is a little bit of moisture. It's obviously not suitable for use if there's water pooling underneath here, but it hasn't rained for a little while and we know that it's generally quite dry except for a bit of residual moisture. These tiles may have been spot fixed with dobs of glue along that edge and then just push down to get the right fall into that. But we'll show you the repair process now, how easy it is to repair a situation like this using Stickit Pro. So it's important that you get everything prepped before. Don't mix your adhesive, don't try and fill the injection bottle, work out where you're going to be drilling your holes and how you're going to be getting everything prepped before you start the process. So generally we recommend drilling through the grout lines. Now this is a 1.5 mil grout line. In some cases it might be slightly larger. We supply a 2 mil carbide twist drill bit. Now this will drill through the grout lines all day, every day, no problems with that. Some harder tiles like porcelain can be a problem. So where possible, you really want to be drilling through the grout lines. And every 100 or so around the edges of the tiles is the best way so that the adhesive can find its way into all of those hollow spots or nooks and crannies. If you were just to inject in the corners and try and pump, the adhesive has a long way to flow. So don't be lazy. More holes in more locations gives more of a chance for the adhesive to find its way into all of the cavities. So a question that we get asked quite a bit is, what do I do about a situation where I've got missing grout? So this is often a telltale sign that you have a loose tile. This tile will vibrate as people stand on it. What ends up happening is the grout starts cracking, and then eventually that grout will start cracking and falling out. So in order to inject under pressure, ideally you want to get it before it becomes too far gone like this. You want a situation where your grout is still in place. You can drill through there and inject under pressure and the adhesive is going to flow further. Where you've got a situation like this, one alternative is to cover this area with a piece of tape and inject through the tape. Because if you inject where there is no grout, the adhesive is going to want to come back in the path of least resistance, and that's generally out through the grout lines. So something simple like placing a bit of tape, good quality tape, and really push it in hard so that it bites the edge, gives you the ability to drill an injection hole through there and inject under pressure, so you're forcing the adhesive in underneath rather than to flow out along the grout lines. The other thing that is worthwhile considering, a lot of people say, look, I've got a really fine grout line, I've got a 1.5 mil grout line. So if you look at that drill versus the size, it's going to go pretty close. This is a 2 mil, this is the smallest drill that we could make and still have some strength to it. If you're concerned about chipping the edges of the tile, another approach is to use something like a brad nail. So a nail that's used by carpenters for pinning trims and things is actually quite fine. And often what you'll find is the grout doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of the tile. So just taking a brad nail, giving it a couple of taps, you'll find that you can actually bore a hole which will allow you to be able to do the injection without having to drill. So that's just one method. A little bit more work than it would be for drilling. So if we were to drill that hole, you can see I'm through already. But if you were concerned about touching the edge of the tile, then you might consider using something like a brad nail just to punch down enough so that you can inject through that as well. Okay, you can see now we've basically drilled all of our holes, roughly 100 around the edges of the tiles, all the way through. What I'm going to do now is just sweep up some of this drill dust, the grout dust, because we can actually use that to disguise the holes afterwards. But just a question that people ask, I've got a large format tile, a 600 by 600 or even larger. How am I going to get the adhesive to flow into all places under the tile? So drilling at multiple locations around the tile, as we've done, is the best chance of getting the adhesive to flow in from all directions. But sometimes it might be necessary to drill through the middle of a tile, especially where you've got a larger format tile. Our drills are quite sharp, but it can be challenging drilling through some of the hardest stone, especially class 5 porcelain, which is incredibly hard. Even for the best drills, diamond drills, you'll still find difficulty drilling through. So we do recommend you go through the grout line wherever possible. But with softer tiles, ceramics, terracotta, especially some of the older tiles that are around, you'll find these drills that we've provided will actually go through the middle of the tile. And when you have a textured or coloured tile like this, it's much easier to disguise the injection points because it's not going to stick out like it would with a white gloss tile if there was a hole in the middle of it. Okay, so now we've got our holes, we're ready to mix our adhesive and start the injection process. It's fairly straightforward. This is your pump bottle. You basically unscrew the pump bottle ready to fill. Now you've got a lure connection, which is where your injection needle goes to. So you take your injection needle, you remove the cap, put that on and twist it anti-clockwise, and there's your needle ready to inject. Keep your safety cap on until you're ready to inject so you don't spike yourself. It's quite sharp. Okay, we'll put that to the side. Now the adhesive, just give it a little bit of a mix before you're ready to go, but this is actually a pre-measured dose. You don't need to worry about weighing or anything like that. It's pre-measured to the right consistency between your hardener and your resin component, and we've put it into a double pouch. So the idea is you fold the pouch back on itself like this. You've then got your spout at the top. Use a pair of scissors to actually cut the pouch, and what you'll find is you can place that in the top of the bottle and then the contents will literally decant into your bottle. So squeeze all of the contents out. You can't partly use the pouch. You really need to use all of the contents of the pouch in one mix. So get that into your bottle. There's a little bit left. Okay, all good to go. So that's waste. Now I'm going to whack some gloves on before I do the injection, just in case. This is an epoxy adhesive, but it is something that you can actually wash up in water, and we'll show you the washout process a little bit later on. But the process for actually mixing this is to shake it. You don't need a drill or anything else. For the 1 litre size, we want you to mix in this bottle. And what we do is we place this back on to the bottle, twist it up and shake vigorously for 30 seconds. So don't push the trigger, but what you want to do is you want to mix it and shake it vigorously during that first 30 seconds to make sure that the adhesive is really, really well mixed. Okay, once you've let that mix, just let it stand for another 10 seconds or so to let the bubbles disperse. Just give it a slight swirl and a couple of taps, and that's general enough to break all of the bubbles. But you can see the liquid is very thin. I'll actually show you that as to how it comes out. I'll pump this up a few times to develop some pressure. You push the trigger and you'll see the adhesive flowing through the line. And it's very, very thin. So that's all mixed. It's a nice even consistency in colour. As a thin film, this will actually dry clear. It looks white when it's mixed, but as it dries, if you were to get any on the surface of the tile, it's a good idea just to keep a rag handy. So we've got a rag here, just a little bit of water. If you get it anywhere that it shouldn't be, just give it a bit of a wipe. And what that will do is remove it. If it does dry, it just generally leaves a little bit of a shiny patch. So on a porous tile like a terracotta, you really would want to consider masking that so you don't get any drips anywhere. On a sealed tile like porcelain or ceramic, it's less important because you can wipe it off with a damp rag. So we've now got our adhesive in there. We've got it mixed up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place the little rubber plug over to give us some extra pressure when we inject. So the best way to do that is the rubber plug actually has a hole in the back of it. If you very gently push the needle through the rubber plug, you'll find that it will come out at the front. Just be careful it goes through the rubber plug, not through your finger. But that now gives us the ability to inject under pressure. The rubber plug will actually create a seal around the injection hole. So the trick now, I'll just give myself some space. Pump till there's a decent resistance, and once there's a decent resistance you're going to have heaps of pressure. Put the needle into the hole, push down on the rubber plug, push the trigger, and you can see the adhesive flowing through. It looks like there's a fair bit of adhesive travelling into that hole because I've still got the trigger depressed, so I've found a large void under there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and top up that hole. There's no point doing it all in one hit. It's best to stop injecting, lift the needle and give it a chance to settle, and we'll go back to the next hole. You can see already that's starting to disappear. That to me suggests that the adhesive has found a void and it's finding its way in. It will pull itself through. It wets out the area underneath and it will pull itself through. So we can top that up because Stickit Pro is actually a gap filler. If you used our original Stickit, which is a water-based single part, you don't want to put too much adhesive in, otherwise it has trouble curing. This will cure at any depth, and as I said earlier, this will cure if there's a little bit of moisture under here as well. Pooling water is an issue. So if this was saturated like a shower tray, you'd actually want to use a wet vac, blow some compressed air in there, try and get that pooling water. But if there's a little bit of residual dampness, no problems. This adhesive will still bond. The other question that's asked is, how do I know that this is going to bond strongly? We've had tests done, independent tests done, which show that this Stickit Pro epoxy has 4 times the bonding strength of a standard tile glue. So you can be totally assured that once this cures, it's going to be a very, very strong bond. So we'll just go through a little bit more pressure and we'll just inject. You can see if I don't put enough pressure on the rubber plug, it wants to flow back out from around the injection point. But when I push down on the rubber plug, it actually injects under that point. It's actually come out the hole next to it, and that's often quite common. It shows that that void is connected. So I'll just keep injecting all the way around this tile. And what you can do afterwards is you can come back and top up all of those injection holes to make sure that the voids are totally filled. Now you can see that's come straight back out the hole. That suggests to me that I haven't been able to find a void. So I've found a void here, I haven't found a void there because the adhesive doesn't want to go in. This one has found a void because I've got the trigger pressed and it's actually not coming out. But the moment I let go, it'll start flowing back out that hole. So the rubber plug does serve a pretty useful process in terms of allowing you to inject under pressure. And the trick is just keep trying locations around the tile. So the more locations you try, the better the chance the adhesive is going to find its way in to all of those nooks and crannies. Okay, and we'll just come to our section here, which is the broken and missing grout through the tape. And you can see that that is actually injecting around that tape. We're getting a lot going through that grout line. And as we pull that masking, you can see it's actually flowing out here. So it's found its way right along underneath and is coming out there. Okay, so just before we get too much further, I'm going to keep injecting the rest of this job and show you how we finish it. But just some tricks and techniques. Ideally what you want to be doing is cleaning this as you go. So just a damp rag, give it a bit of a wipe up as you go. And what that means is you won't have a big cleanup issue. If you let this dry, you'll be grinding it off mechanically. So it is much easier to get rid of this with a damp rag and wipe it off. Just a little bit more water. And the other thing that we can do with those injection points, I've still got some of the dust that we had before, so I can take that dust and just push it into a hole to disguise that injection point. And after a while you won't even notice that that injection is there. Alright, so that's the Stickit Pro injection system. As I said, the 1 litre size, but there is a larger 5 litre size if you're doing larger areas. It will bond to difficult surfaces where you have tile over tile, which is common with a lot of renovations with DIYers who don't understand what they're doing. They'll actually put a tile direct stick over the top of another tile. But it allows you to fill gaps and voids under the tile as well, which is often the cause of that knocking or hollow sound that you will hear as you walk over a loose or drummy tile. But the time to repair it is when you notice that sound. Don't leave it because your tile will move, it'll end up cracking and you won't be able to replace it. But with Stickit Pro, our new injection system, this is how easy it is to do a repair job yourself, and it takes only a little bit of preparation, and pretty much anyone, all you really need is an electric drill. Everything else comes in the kit, and you can see the process here today.